Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we're going to take a look at Litecoin and maybe a few other coins. If you have any requests, you can drop them in the comment section below and I can take a look at it during the next rapid fire video. So taking a look here at Litecoin, it's definitely on the more difficult phase of wave structure. It's definitely more difficult to read than some of these other charts, but we're going to do our best and try to work through these waves here. So Litecoin has been somewhat of just basically range bound. It really didn't have a bull market. It's been consolidating ever since its major debut back in 2016, 2017 is when it really got started here. And ever since then, it's been, basically trending sideways, which is actually a good thing. You want it to trend sideways. The reason why is because you're developing a major base here. So point number one is Litecoin has a massive base. It's one of the biggest bases in crypto history, right? Basically, we're in a phase now where this should be getting close to the end of it. So typically in a phase, I'm going to show you here with Bitcoin. Typically, what you want to see here in a phase of a market is either a 5-wave move, right, with a 3-wave pullback and then a continuation. But a lot of times that doesn't play out. And what happens in a lot of these cycles is you get a rise, you get a crash, and then you get a retracement. And then you come back down into reaccumulation, and then you go sideways in here. So you have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, breakout. Same thing here that happened with Ethereum, right? You had a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, and then a breakout. Same thing happened in XRP. You had a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, and then you had a breakout. Sometimes they could be a little bit tricky here, like Chainlink, right? You had a rise, you had a crash, and then you had a B wave, right? A 3-wave retracement, and then you came all the way back down into C, and then you came back up, then you went sideways. So they can be a little bit complex at times. And then of course you just have your regular impulse waves where you shoot to the upside, you have a rise, and then you have an A, B, C, a 3-wave pullback, and then you continue higher. So instead of going into a retracement, right, and then going down into reaccumulation and then going sideways, then breaking out, you're basically just impulsing to the upside. So what we can see here, even going back to XRP real quick, I mean, you have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, breakout. That's one of the reasons I actually like XRP right now, because you have that structure. You have a rise, you have a crash, you have a retrace, you have reaccumulation, and now you're going sideways. So it's basically, the XRP chart is kind of like the Litecoin chart. So if you don't like XRP, then you might not like Litecoin as well, because they both basically have similar structures. They're both in this phase here, and this phase is very deadly, right? And when I mean deadly, I mean bullish, right? So just look at this phase. You had a very big base down in here, right? That's what you want. The bigger the base, the higher in space. And Litecoin and XRP have that, right? And I'm trying to use XRP here as an example to show you. So I'm going to get to Litecoin in a second, but let me just show you this here, right? As we had this rise, crash, retrace, and then the important part is the reaccumulation. This basically, you're building a base within the base, right? And then once you break that base, look how massive this breakout was here. It was a huge pump to the upside, right? And it's kind of the same thing here. You have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, and now you're right here. This is the same spot as right here. So that's why things can get very, very interesting. And then you also have the Ripple lawsuit finishing up quite hopefully sometime this summer or even maybe later this year. But why does that matter for Litecoin? Because if one chart is telling a specific story, then it gives confluence and, some conviction to other charts that might be a little bit harder to read. So let's get back to Litecoin. So now that we established our little lesson there, what we can see here with Litecoin is something similar. We have a rise, we have a crash, we have a three-wave move to the upside or retracement, right? We never went into expansion into a bull market like the rest of the market did. So XRP and Litecoin only had a retracement. And then it came down into reaccumulation, and now it's going sideways. So again, similar to what XRP did back in the day: rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation. Look at this reaccumulation phase here. It was a big base, and then it had this monster breakout. So when we look at Litecoin, right, yes, it's an older coin. People can argue and say, well, Litecoin is dead, it's not going to do anything, it's never going to break out, it's just going to kind of lop around, and maybe that could be the case, right? But I don't really think so. I think it will have its debut. It might take some time, but again, people say, well, why hold Litecoin? It doesn't make sense. You might as well hold Bitcoin. And that's true. When you look at Litecoin versus Bitcoin, it's been a disaster, right? But we can't ignore the phases in the market. Like, I always go back to specific stocks. Like Amazon took 8 or 9 years for it to break its top here. So the top was back here in 2017. It was actually at the end of 2017. So we'll just say 2018, right? So 2018. 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. It's been 7 years, 7.5 years since we've broken the top here. So, that's about, 2,379 days. It's been a long time, right? So the big question is Litecoin dead? Is it ever going to survive? And my question is, or my answer to that is, I think so. The reason why is because everything's still intact. If Litecoin was going to die, it probably would have done it already. The first thing you got to do is look at the opening of Litecoin, and basically we had a base down in here. Now I'm on the Coinbase chart, so you might not have as much data, but essentially you had a base down here. You broke out, and this is an impulse. We're impulsing to the upside, right? And now we're simply consolidating at the top of the range. So you basically take this whole thing right here, this whole wave, and you cut it in half, and that's exactly where it pulled back to, right? So and it's holding support, and it came up, and it made a bottom, it came up, and it made another bottom, a double bottom, which is bullish, and then it came all the way back up to the top of the range. But it got rejected, right? The bull market was over, Bitcoin was already in a bear market, it didn't have enough time, and it didn't have enough liquidity to get it to expand. So, the next thing happens, right, which is making your way back down, trying to get more bids in here, more new money coming in. So it pulls back, has a three-way pullback, and it basically has a hard stop here. And then ever since then, it's been ranging inside of this range. So once this range breaks, we'll see how that plays. If it breaks to the downside, then it's probably going to be just about finished. You're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So what you're going to have then is probably a breakout, because you're going to have an A, you're going to have a 3-wave B, and then you're going to have a 5-wave C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're going to have an A, B, C, and then that should be complete. So we should have something like that. Or, since it went up more than 90%, it's most likely a flat. It's probably going to be a flat, right? Which basically is this, it's also an ABC, but you're going to have an A, B, and then you go down C into reaccumulation, right? So let's see how this range breaks. Now, in my opinion, if Bitcoin breaks out 71, 72, 73K, I believe this thing's going to break out as well, right? Because remember, Litecoin is only And here we go. On the Binance chart, we actually have a lot more data here. So let me zoom out here to the weekly chart. Okay, so we're looking at the weekly chart here on Litecoin, and you can see, you know, again, this is exactly what happened last time. We had a rise, we had a crash, we had a retracement, and then we went down into reaccumulation, and then we went sideways, right? And that's when we got the big breakout. So again, we have a rise, we have a crash, we have a retracement, we came down into reaccumulation. Same thing here, we're going sideways. So I'm wondering if this is the sideways base that we're building up, we're revving up to break to the upside. So, you know, a lot of people get complacent. Oh, XRP is not going to do anything. Litecoin's not going to do anything. They're old. They're dead. You know, it's worthless. And that may be the truth. That may be the whole fact right there. But at the end of the day, I really have a hard time believing that, especially because there's no proof that that's the case. Also, Litecoin is a very well-known name. It has a lot of price history. It has a lot of data, and it also has a lot of brand recognition. Same thing with XRP, right? So regardless of the developer aspect, like who's developing on the Litecoin blockchain or who's developing on whatever, that's not for me to decide, right? So all I can do is look at the chart, and the chart still says we're in bullish price territory, right? Why? Because we haven't broken down yet, number one. Number two, we're still obviously in reaccumulation. And number three, we're still in an uptrend, right? We still haven't made a lower low. Like, you have a low, you have a higher low, you have a higher low, and you have a higher low. So you're consistently making higher lows here, right? We haven't had a higher high yet, but that's because we're still, you know, consolidating in this reaccumulation range, just like we are right here. So now that we established all that on the higher time frames, let's take a look here on the smaller time frames, and let's actually take a look here and see what we got. So from an Elliott wave perspective, you know, we have, this is an A wave, right? So that's wave A. We come up, right, in a three-wave move. That's wave B, and then we have, or I'm sorry, that could be a W. This could be an X, and then we have 3 down for Y. So it would actually be a WXY, basically a 3-3-3. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 3 down, 3 up, 3 back down, and now we're sort of leveling out. We had a low, we have a higher low, right? So what's going on here? So either this could be, let's zoom in a little bit here. This could be 2-day chart. This could be a 1-2-1-2, which is very bullish, right? So we have, and it's ugly as crap, right? And that's the market makers design it that way. They make you think like, you know, it's dead and it's not doing anything, right? But and again, that might be the case, but we do have 1, 2, we have 3, 4, and 5. So we have a 5-wave move. It looks, you know, maybe like a diagonal, and then we have an A, B, C. So this is a 1, 2, right? And then we have another, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with another A, B, C. So we have 5, 3, 5, 3. So we have a 1, 2, 1, 2, right? So what a 1, 2, 1, 2 is very, very bullish, if it is, right? A normal impulse wave is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you get an A, B, C correction, and then you continue to go. But sometimes you get a 1, 2, 1, 2 that overlaps each other, which sets up for a big third wave. Then you get 4, 5, 4, 5, something like that. So it's a much more complex wave, right? And then instead of like an ABC correction, you get more of maybe an A, B, C. Instead of that, you get a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, breakout. So just keep that in mind as well. So yeah, since this structure here is the reaccumulation structure, right, we're going to want to see some bullish price action in here, or some bullish patterns, right? So we have a 1-2-1-2 potential. So let's see how this plays out. Now that's the bullish way to look at it. The bearish way to look at it is to say, this isn't really finished yet. Basically we went up, we came back down, we have a three-way back up, and now we're going to come back down again and revisit the lows here, right? Maybe creating some kind of potential Wyckoff accumulation, where you kind of do something like this. You kind of make a spring here, then you come up, play around a little bit, then shoot to the upside. So that could still be the case as well. So it's still very unclear. The way I would look at it is we have to kind of wait for Bitcoin here and see what Litecoin's going to do holding up, because again, we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I would actually probably do it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then we have an ABC pullback, right? So we have that three-way pullback here, right? And then also, are we on a 9? So we did have a 2-day 9. What about the 3-day? I don't think so. Yeah, we did have a 3-day 9 as well. It's not really perfected. We have the 1 trading below the 9, but it's decent considering the fact that, when we look at Bitcoin is definitely oversold on the daily. And we also have a daily 9 buy here on Bitcoin. So this indicator is called the TD sequential. If you want to look for that, it's not on TradingView anymore. You'll have to type in trend reversal predictor, and it's basically the same thing, just labeled a little differently. So we have a 9 buy here on Bitcoin. And basically the same thing for Bitcoin here. We want to see something similar. We have a rise, we have a crash, a retrace, reaccumulation. Now we want to go sideways and build some reaccumulation base and then break out. So knowing if that's the case for Bitcoin, then when we go back to Litecoin, we can kind of figure out, okay, if that's the case, for Bitcoin, let me remove this here, and we can kind of expect something similar here for Litecoin, right? So I would actually like to see a base get built in here, right? And then a nice impulse to the upside, a 3-way pullback that potentially backtest the breakout level, and then another move to the upside. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? And we really want to break that range there. Once we break above 110, I mean, that's been really strong resistance. And then also, $60 has been really, really good support. It feels like it's been in that price area for a while. This is the start of seeing some kind of Wyckoff pattern emerge in here, where you kind of round out in here, and then you break the top, you play around a little bit, and then you break out. So that's kind of the bullish way to look at Litecoin here, right? Now we might have one more low before we get to that point. So we might, we could come back up in a 3-way move and then hit the low one more time, getting back down in here, right? If that's the case, then it's going to not look as good. And then if we get a 3-way pullback, it's going to look like it needs more down, right? That's what it's going to look like. Then you're starting to develop, head, a shoulder, head, a shoulder here, right? So we kind of want it to find a bottom. We don't want to break below. Really, we don't want to break below 64. $66. We really want to stay above that because that's sort of the bottom here of this 1-2 wave here. So if this ABC pullback comes in right at that perfect spot, again, we want to see some kind of base get built in here and then a breakout. Now, if we have a base, or if we have a quick reaction to the upside and then we get rejected, then what we want to see, right, if we do get that impulse to the upside, we want to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably get rejected here, then get a three-way pullback, and then that could be a decent long opportunity. But if it turns back into 3, we could continue to just develop a bigger base, right, before breaking out. So I would look at this area here as probably accumulation, right? Because when you zoom all the way out, this whole thing has been reaccumulation. So yes, it takes a long time, but Litecoin, I don't think it's going anywhere. Every time the mainstream media talks about Bitcoin, they always got Litecoin prices on the screen. You know, Fox Business, CNBC, they got the price of Bitcoin, you know, say at $64,000 Bitcoin. Then right below that, they have Ethereum. Then right below that, they have Litecoin. And Litecoin's not even in the top 10 anymore, and they still show it a lot on the mainstream media. And this tells me that, you know, because Litecoin's an OG, right? And you don't want to count the OGs out, you know, especially when they have a lot of price history, a lot of volume to back it, and you just never know when you can get a big Litecoin push. And then I think eventually there will be a Litecoin ETF. As weird as that might sound, you know, people want to trade altcoins, and Litecoin has been a very decent coin to trade over the last several years, right? It's had plenty of volume, it's on a lot of exchanges, it's very recognizable. So I don't think it's going anywhere. Now, if we start breaking below the range, then it's not going to look as good, right? Because we built this whole range for the last 6-7 years, and if we break it, then that would have all been for nothing, right? So Litecoin's basically do or die area is right at $35. So if we break below $37, then it's probably going to be a very long and brutal road for Litecoin, right? But I'm not sure if that would happen. If we do come down here, right, pretty sharp, then this could be, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then basically we have one more chance for Litecoin to survive this range down in here, right? Even though we're beyond $35, right? We still have these lows down here at $25, $26, the C19 low, which we really don't want to break below. So that would be our last chance to get out of here. And basically what that would be is an A, B, C, right? Some kind of flat structure that gets us way back down to the bottom of the range. We could still go back down to literally $26, $27, right? But technically we don't really want to break below that 35, 37. It would be nice to hold above that. But if we did, we would have that three-wave shape. It would still look good for some upside. Now, if we break the whole thing to the downside, then what this is going to look like is just a massive correction. So we had, right, this, let me get back to this chart here. Okay, so let me take this. Okay, so here we go. So we have, you know, this whole thing could be 1, 2, 3, and now we're in some kind of wave 4 waiting to get wave 5. So we haven't had wave 5 yet. We've only had 1, 2, 3. So we still need wave 5 in here, right? So far we only had 3 waves. So if we pull back and we start coming down in here, then it's going to look like, you know, it wasn't a 5-wave move, it was only a 3-wave move. So it would be, you know, if this whole thing is wave 3 and this is wave 1, 2, 3, then, and if we do, this is the bearish idea now, if we do break below this range, I would imagine we would come pretty low, maybe even, between $6 and $10, which is very unfathomable. Like, it's just incomprehensible. And then at that point, everybody would think Litecoin is dead. But it would probably just be, retracing this huge wave. If it breaks this range to the downside, it doesn't mean Litecoin is dead permanently. It just means it's going to take a lot longer for it to come out of this positive on the other side. So it could be A, complex B, and then a big C leg to the downside. Something like that. It would have to be pretty big, with a big ABC like this, right? Somewhere around that $10 mark, and then go. But, that's still a long ways away. And that's if Bitcoin decides, you know what, I'm going to go back down to 30K and back test the breakout zone, which I don't see happening at the moment, right? Because the thing, to understand Litecoin, we have to understand Bitcoin. And for Bitcoin, right, either this is, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C. We have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways breakout. Same thing here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is A, B, C. We have rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways breakout. That's the idea. If that's the idea, we can see Litecoin starting, to break. What was that number here? Break above 86 to 108. So that range there for Litecoin. So that would be nice to see. But if this turns into an ABC and we come down to 50K, right, then we can look at Litecoin like, okay, now we still need more time to play around. So this could actually do something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get down here into the low, right, which would be essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this would be A, B, and then C. So that would probably be the most idealistic count if we're going to be kind of neutral here. If Bitcoin has that ABC correction, then this is probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, right? So we have a 1, and this whole thing is a 2, and that would be an incredible buying opportunity somewhere around that mid $40 range, right? And then build a base, and that would be the final dump before the big pump, right? So you have a 1, 2, and then we go up massively in a wave 3. So that should do it for Litecoin. If targets, as far as target goes, if we break out, it's still going to take quite a bit of time. We still need to get through, 218 through 330 just to even go into expansion. And if we do get it into expansion, there's no guarantee, but if we do, then my target for Litecoin would be about $655 to $700. So between $650 and $700 target for Litecoin. If we crush through that in a wave 3 and pull back for 4 and go up to 5, we could see upwards of $1,000, right? If it really wanted to do a full 4.236 Fibonacci extension, we could see around that $1,500 mark, which is insane, right? So I think those prices eventually at some point will come, right? Crypto, you have to understand, is an anti-debt instrument, right? So give it time and it will grow, especially when there's only 84 million Litecoin, just like there's only 21 million Bitcoin. Charlie Lee invented Litecoin not to compete with Bitcoin, but to act as kind of a balanced bridge between the two. Meaning, for example, Litecoin is silver as to Bitcoin is gold, right? Some of that ratio. Also, it's faster, it's more scalable, and things like that. So you do have the traditional mining and things like that, but once they mine up all the Bitcoin and it comes too expensive, they're going to start mining the Litecoin too, right? So I think the network will just get stronger over time. So don't count Litecoin out. I think it's still a true big contender. If it's going to die, it will let us know. But does that mean I'm going to go out and buy it? No, I think there's a lot better options out there to buy. Like, for example, I think XRP is in a much better position than Litecoin. But do I think it can do some great gains? Absolutely. If you've been holding Litecoin for several years, I probably would just keep holding it. Remember, this is not financial advice. Nothing I say is financial advice. This is just all my opinion. We'll see what happens. But the way I'm looking at Litecoin is very, very simple, right? We have, again, a massive base here. And inside that base, we have reaccumulation, similar to what happened back over here. Reaccumulation, right? This was actually going up into reaccumulation. This is going down into reaccumulation. So it could be a difference of structure. But you had a pretty big base there. You have another big base here. You're stepping up the ladder. Each one takes longer. This was not that much time. This is a long time. So when we break out, the next one's probably going to be even bigger than that. We'll see. But really, crypto's been waiting for, a big trigger to be pulled, kind of like that green light from the political landscape. And I do believe once we get this new president in pro-crypto, right, I think a lot of things are going to start moving very, very fast, especially regulations, more ETFs coming out. It's going to be really a big, bright future for crypto, especially as the central banking system is showing its weakness. Crypto is definitely running parallel, right, with the central banking system. So there's going to be definitely alternative currencies as the current system, is breaking down, right? I mean, just look at all the inflation, look at the Fed, look at the interest rates, just understand what you're holding here. Yes, it's Litecoin, or yes, it's Bitcoin, or whatever. The point is it crypto? Is it scarce? Does it have developers? Is it in a good spot? And let the rest write itself out. So anyways, that'll do it for this video. I will catch you guys on the next one.